Most founders think a go-to-market strategy is just a launch plan or a marketing campaign. And spoiler alert, there's way more to it than that. And that is why so many startups fail to gain traction. This is the real of building a conscious business, the hard-earned lessons, unfiltered truths, and impactful guests. Welcome to Confessions of a Conscious CEO. I've seen brilliant products flop, not because the product wasn't good, but because they didn't have a solid go-to-market strategy. If you're building a business right now, that is exactly why I'm doing this episode, because I'm going to break down what a go-to-market strategy is, what's included, and how you can create a winning strategy. When I ask founders about their go-to-market, I typically just get a launch plan, or they tell me they're doing social media ads, and those are just all little execution pieces, but that's not your inclusive, holistic strategy. Without a clear plan, you're likely just going to waste time, effort, and resources, because if you do these paid ads and they don't work and they don't really ladder up to any strategy, it's just going to be wasted money. If you've ever felt like you're throwing spaghetti against the wall when it comes to your marketing, and or you know your product is good, but no one's buying it, and you're just racking your brain trying to figure out what's wrong, it's not just the marketing piece, it's probably your entire GTM strategy. That is why I'm dedicating an entire episode talking about what it is, because I often find that people think it's just how you get to market and that's it. And yes, it is part of that, but it includes so many things. I thought go-to-market was also just the launch plan because the name is a little bit specific. It's literally go-to-market. So I was like, okay, it's how you launch, how you go to market. And yes, that is important. The launch plan is part of it. But actually, the work comes well before you actually launch. And if you do this properly and you put in the work at the beginning to figure out the customer pain point, how you're going to solve that, perfect your product, and really iterate it and test it, by the time you then go and launch, it's going to do so much better because you have done all this pre-work. I learned this firsthand in corporate. Early on into my career, I joined a multi-million consumer health department, and I was working on go-to-market strategy. At the time, I thought it was just a launch plan of this new product we were launching, but I quickly saw firsthand it wasn't just a launch plan. There was so much before that. We were launching a new senior fall detection device and got to know the target customer. For this specific product, which is helping seniors detect their falls, obviously the end user would be the target, so the senior themselves, but also their loved ones, which tend to be adult caregivers. We actually identified two different personas, and then from that, we decided to reverse engineer what the product should look like, as well as how we were going to bring it to market. Because of the audience using it, we knew that this couldn't be super techy, but at the same time, we also knew that the seniors' loved ones would have certain things they would want as features, such as being able to get notifications if their senior loved one has fallen, and being able to potentially talk to them right away to see if they're okay. And so really understanding the two different demographics, their pain points, their needs, their wants, that helped shape the product. With the product, we tested it. We did interviews. We also had beta testers, and we had them use it, work out any kinks in a safe environment, of course. From there, the distribution plan was also really strategic, trying to target both these customers. So we knew that we needed to get the buy-in from the seniors, and also for some seniors, they may be purchasing this themselves. But for the majority of our customers, they would be purchased by their adult caregivers. So we needed to be able to reach both. To reach seniors, we decided to target senior centers. We decided to work with healthcare professionals. And that was our main avenues to target that demographic. With the adult caregivers, we were able to target them with digital spend. And we purposely did that because we knew the senior demographic, they're not really online, obviously. So in-person activations worked better. So with the senior centers, events, sponsorships, that kind of stuff. And then with the adult caregivers, the digital paid ads worked really well. From that, we were able to reach our goals. But as you can see, it's not just about the launch plan, like which digital ads are we going to show the adult caregivers? It's just literally from who your ideal customer is, figuring out their problem, creating a product that is going to solve that problem, as well as then figuring out how you're going to distribute it, and also making sure that you are able to make sure it's in your budget and with your time and your resources. And from this, I learned a lot of different lessons that I now want to break down to really highlight what go-to-market is, because I really want to spell it out for you. So the first lesson is that go-to-market is not marketing. It's separate. And in fact, go-to-market encompasses a lot of different things. Marketing is going to be a part of your go-to-market strategy, but think of GTM as this like big umbrella, and then marketing is a part of it. As I just mentioned, your product is equally as important. So is your sales and distribution. So all of those things ladder up to GTM, but it is a mistake just to think of marketing as your entire GTM strategy, which is again why you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to work with this influencer, or I'm going to put money into meta ads. That can't be it, because there's so much other stuff that is so important and that is going to ladder up to your strategy. And so then the golden question is, what is GTM, right? So when we're talking about GTM, there's a slew of things that need to be covered. First and foremost, like I mentioned, you need to identify who your ideal customer is. Who are you going after? And you likely have someone you're drawn to help, or it could be a problem yourself that you're facing and you're wanting to solve that. So figuring out other people that are going through the same thing as you. As an example, I've had clients that were new moms, and there were so many different problems and a lack of support new moms have. So they decided to create products and services to help with that. Their ideal customer would be new moms. You really want to do a lot of market research to know your ideal customer inside and out. Start with ideal customer. From there, you want to know what problem you are solving. Nowadays, there are so many businesses out there, and so it is really important that whatever you're putting out does solve a problem and pain point, because then people value it and they will be willing to pay money for it. Thirdly, you then need to figure out, okay, I have this person I want to help. I have these problems that they are facing that I want to solve. And then the next step is to figure out how your product and service is going to solve those pain points for them. It is difficult to figure out what kind of product and service can solve that problem, which is why the market research piece is so important, as well as testing and getting feedback. It does take time. You should spend a lot of time and effort into it, because once you have a really good product and service, the launching then becomes easier. So this is the stage that you should dedicate a lot of time and resources into. And I will talk a little bit more about how you can determine what the problem is and how you're going to solve it later. But all this to say, so it's the ideal customer, it's the problem, it's the solution or product that you're going to be doing. Next, it's about how you're going to position it. What is your one-line tagline that is going to allow your ideal customer to understand how it's going to solve their problem and pain point? Next, it's all about, okay, you have this thing, how are you going to get it to them now? What channels are you going to use? What distribution methods? And then, of course, from a sales perspective, how can they actually check out and buy? The marketing piece then comes at the end. So how are we going to launch it? How are we going to promote it? And all that stuff. As you can see, it's literally not just social ads. It's this entire process of how you are bringing this product to market. And that's how I like to think about it. It's not just the going to market of it at the end. It's this entire process and this entire journey. The second lesson I learned is that you need to start with your customer. So like I just outlined, the very first step is starting with your ideal customer. I think a lot of founders nowadays, they will just be like, oh, we're going to do TikTok ads to reach these people, or figure out who our target's going to be. Or people will just be like, oh, I want to start a clothing brand, and so that's what I'm going to do. But it all needs to come back to your customer, because they are the ones that are going to be paying. And we want to make sure it's actually something they need and they want. And how you're going to do that, like I mentioned, is market research. I always recommend to my clients to do surveys as well as interviews. Surveys are great because you get a large quantity of data to really ensure that you are making database decisions and everything is statistically significant. In the survey, I always get my clients to gather demographic information such as their age, their location, their salary, their jobs, kind of get to know your ideal customer a little bit more, as well as psychographic information. So values, beliefs, goals, aspirations, all that stuff. And then you really want to start to nail home what the problem is. So you can start to ask them what they're currently struggling with, what they wish existed, what keeps them up at night, all these different things. And the survey is great because, like I mentioned, you get a large quantity of data. But then sometimes you want to dig deeper and you may want to ask follow-up questions, which obviously you can't do in a survey. That's where the interviews come into play. With the interviews, I always get my clients to pick out people from their survey. And we always add a question at the end that's like, are you okay with us reaching out to you for an interview? So if they say yes, then you reach out to them and then you dive deeper. The way you structure your interviews are so important as well. You do not want to bias anyone. So I always get my clients to start with the problem and really making sure you've nailed that down. You understand what they're struggling with, what they're dealing with. And then from there, you then ask them for what they wish existed. You don't want to bias them with your potential solution right from the get-go, because we want them to tell you what they want and then you can co-create and create something together. This all being said, I do have a free course. It's called GTM Essentials. And I have a lesson entirely dedicated to market research. You can actually just snag my survey and snag my interview guide It's completely free, so you don't need to take notes or anything like that. You can register for free at selinaho.com/GTM-essentials, or you can click the link down below. Highly recommend you take this free course. It's not just the market research. There's so much else, which I'm going to cover in this podcast episode. But just to make your life easy, you can just literally leverage that survey and leverage that interview doc and be well on your way. The next lesson is that you do not need to overbuild the product. This is something that was a hard pill for me to swallow because when I was working in that consumer health division, obviously we are impacting the health and well-being of people, especially with that senior fall detection device. Yes, we wanted to do a minimal viable product or prototype and test it. But if this prototype didn't work and a senior fell and something happened, like people's lives are at risk, right? So it is a fine balance of not sinking too much money into your prototype so that it's wasted effort, because it does not need to be 100% perfect. But on the flip side, especially with a touchy healthcare product, you want to make sure that people aren't going to be injured and all that stuff. You want to make sure you're taking care of people and the well-being of people. So it was a fine balance, but I definitely do believe in the 80-20 rule here. What is the cheapest, fastest, lowest hanging fruit way you can get this prototype out? And when I was on the consumer health team, I remember being like, oh, I'm not sure, like, how's this going to go? But the way we executed it was really strategic. Essentially, we as a team sat down, we looked through all the market research, and we decided to create something based on the feedback we got from the surveys as well as the interviews, and added features that we thought would be helpful. We thought of the lowest cost and easiest to market way to bring it to life while still making sure that the product worked. If something did happen, the senior would get help and they wouldn't be left on the floor or down the stairs or whatever it is. And when it comes to prototyping and testing, we also tested it with friendlies first. So we as employees, like everyone on the team, we tested it first, worked out any kinks. And then next, we tested it on retired employees, people that had worked at the company and had retired. And obviously they were friendly and they were able to give us feedback. And then from there, worked out more kinks. We then took it to a segment of our customers that were also loyal customers and really eager to give feedback and be involved in the behind the scenes. And so we staggered it throughout the entire process. Nothing happened. Everyone was taken care of. But it was really interesting because we felt quite confident after we had gone through all the market research that the features and everything we had done to put this product together would be pretty good. And we didn't think we would have a lot of extra bells and whistles we were going to add or a lot of changes we needed to make before we went to release the final product. But actually, we got a lot of feedback from users of things they didn't actually need and things they wanted instead. We as a team also learned so much in how we could be more efficient, how we could just make the experience better as well. Like I said, don't overbuild your first prototype and don't overbuild your first product. I know a lot of the times, even if you're not in a sensitive industry, you as a founder want your brand to be represented the best it can in the world, but it's just such a waste of time, resources, and energy. If you spend, let's say, $100K creating this app, it takes you 2 years to perfect it. And by the time you get to market, maybe it's obsolete and it's not even relevant anymore. Or maybe in 2 years, you have all these competitors that have launched in 6 months, let's say, and then had a year and a half before you to build a community, gain traction, and test things. And so it is really, really important that you don't overbuild your prototype. I definitely would encourage you to figure out that 80-20 rule for yourself and figure out what is going to be best. And the next lesson is that positioning is so important. There is a sea of products and services out there nowadays, and to stand out, you do need to have a strong position so that your customers can remember that, okay, you're the cheapest, or you're the best, or you're the most reliable, or you're the most premium, or you're the fastest solution out there. Like, what is going to stand you apart from your competitors? And as an example, if I say IKEA, you are likely going to have certain things come up to mind, but obviously IKEA has done such a good job with their branding and their positioning, and they're just known for being cheap, no fuss, but still reliable furniture that you have to assemble yourself. Like cheap, no fuss, works, and that's IKEA. And so if you don't have a clear positioning statement for your business yet, your action right now is to pause this episode and develop your one-liner that is going to clearly communicate to your customer why they should choose you you over competitors? What makes you stand out? What differentiates you? And why should they buy from you? And then my next lesson was around distribution. You can do all the work to create the best product, really make sure the positioning is great. But if you don't distribute it well and people don't know about it and they have to go out of their way to buy it, chances are your sales aren't going to be as high. Going back to the senior fall detection example, like I mentioned, we decided to be at senior centers and really be exactly where seniors were. We also decided to really target adult caregivers on digital, and also sometimes we would do event sponsorships and all that stuff as well. For you, think about where your ideal customer is. In the market research, we also ask where you shop or where you hang out, and then that can also help you infer where you should be. But distribution is king. You've likely heard that before, and there's a reason you've probably heard that. The last lesson is just around the sales process. So distribution is important, but from a sales perspective, you always want to be thinking about your funnel. So your funnel is your upside down triangle. And if you've seen the funnel before, you have the traffic, you have the nurturing, and you have the conversion stage. In GTM Essentials, I actually run you through this entire funnel. I also break down how you can set up your traffic, how you can nurture, and how you can convert. But this is so important because, again, you could have all these distribution channels, but if you're not getting enough traffic and people don't know about you, or you're not nurturing your customers up enough, or there just isn't a good way to convert, you're also not going to get sales. So again, I would highly recommend you check out my free GTM Essentials course. You can register via the link down below or at selinaho.com/GTM-essentials. And I hope you now see a little bit more about what go-to-market truly is. It's not just your launch plan. It's not just doing paid ads. There's so much more. And I definitely hold your hand through it inside GTM Essentials. So enroll now if you haven't already. And if you have any other questions, leave them in the comments below. I will definitely do a few more GTM episodes. So keep an eye out for that. And I will see you in the next episode. And that's a wrap on this episode of Confessions of a Conscious CEO. I hope you got a lot out of this episode. If you did, it would mean the world if you subscribed on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify and left a rating and review to help more conscious founders discover this show. It would also make my day if you shared this episode to your Instagram stories or LinkedIn and tag me at Selina Ho or at Confessions of a Conscious CEO. Always cheering you on, and I cannot wait to see what you built from this.